welcome to Apex Esports League. Tonight we're live on iRacing for Pagnian Imports Porsche 911 Championship. Tonight is round 4 and we're off to Charlotte Motor Speedway road course in the 2008 Legacy version. Tonight's session we have 10 minutes of practice, weather conditions are clear, and then we've got 10 minutes of qualifying, and then the race is 40 minutes, and cars are capped at 47% fuel, so we'll need to see them serve a mandatory pit to finish off the race. It's a standing start with restarts as single file with lap cars to the back. So standings after round 3, we have Sebastian Vandel leading the championship with 411 points, followed by Stephen Banks on 367. Last week we were at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca and we had Stephen Banks take pole position and the victory, and then saw Blake Urquhart take the fastest lap, securing those extra bonus points. So I'll load up the track. We should have the correct track loading up, and it's now 3.49 kilometers in Concord, USA for Charlotte Motor Speedway. So over to the track now. And we once again have Ryan joining us, so we'll bring Ryan across. Welcome back again, Ryan. Good to have you in the commentary box.
Thank you, good to be back. Yeah, it's always good watching these guys go around, especially when you get to talk about it. Always find myself watching this when I'm alone, so it's really good that I can actually talk to someone about it now, so it's really good. Only 2 drivers to put a time down at the moment, and that's Nathan Peters and Mark Cochran. Peters has just put down a 1 minute 6 second .9, and Cochran's done a 1 minute 9.5, so it'll be interesting to see what those times come down to when they start warming up.
Yes, it should be very interesting to see how they go around the course. It's not a big favourite. It is rather a very technical track. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for them to be going out in the oval section, try and getting that slipstream and possibly get some very high speed passes in. But making their way to that section of the track is the tricky bit.
James White looks like he's having a couple of goes around. That's the second time we've just watched him spin there, so don't know how he's going to go in the race, but hopefully he can wait long enough to get those tyres warmed up, but it's going to be difficult for him by the looks of it.
We've got some different liveries for the Full Throttle Racing guys. It's actually running a tribute on their cars for tonight's race. So it's actually a tribute to Leslie, I believe. So a sad passing by one of the driver's family members, so it's a lovely gesture for them to dress the cars up in memorial markings for Leslie. So our thoughts go out to you.
It's never good when that happens, so we hope they do well in this race.
Yeah, it would be very fitting.
They could do by the looks of it, because I've got KFC car after KFC car spinning on my screen, so they might be in a good chance if they keep it straight.
Yeah, definitely. So at the moment, Corey, Stephen and Robbie yet to get a time on the board. Quickest out there so far is Blake Urquhart. Second quickest we've got Damien Cross. He's about 0.7 away from Blake's time. See what Tasty Delight we've got Mark Cochran on his car tonight. So he's got a Sunkist car. It's been rather interesting seeing each different week having a new livery to check out.
Definitely has been. One thing I've just noticed too is Sebastian Vandel, one of the championship contenders, hasn't joined in the session yet, so I don't know if he's not racing tonight or not, but it's going to be hoping he jumps in pretty quick because there's 2 minutes left of practice and then we've got 10 minutes of qualifying.
Yeah, Sebastian unable to make it tonight, so off doing some racing with his new team. So he's going to be missing few weeks whilst he's doing that. So it's going to open up opportunity for a championship lead now. With Stephen Banks sitting on 367 points. He's got, what, 44 points difference between himself and Sebastian. So a good round tonight for Stephen is going to open up that opportunity, and even for Blake Urquhart, he's on 345 points. It's 11 drivers loaded up so far.
There's still 3 people who are yet to put a lap time down, so that's Corey Brand, Stephen Banks and Sam Tucker, who's still got to get a move on yet. That's only practice. No need to get super worked up during practice because you've still got 10 minutes of qualifying to go here.
Let's see if they can just try and push the limits of the track, see what the conditions are like, and then get ready for that qualifying. So there's 25 points on the line.
There's definitely a lot of people trying to give the track limits a bit of a shove, but it's not working out in their favour pretty well. They've got my view screen set on focus on crashes, just one after the other. It seems to be in the same spot of the track.
It's probably a little bit of debris as well, and there are a few trickier corners. You can see Nathan has just run off. You can actually see a fair few tyre marks going out off the track. There's a few drivers dropping that tyre off and probably putting themselves into a spin.
And that's the checkered flag out for the practice session. So 3 of the drivers didn't get to put a time in yet, but hopefully they'll be able to throw one in at the end of the next session. Some people pushing the limits of pit lane a little bit too much. Might have to get a little bit of practice in for the pit entry and exit on this qualifying session.
Definitely, it's a little confusing sometimes too. That pit exit can be a little off-putting as to which way you have to go, especially when the driving lines are disabled for driving aids. So they don't have those indicators just to see where you can go.
Everyone keeps to be keeping it pretty well on the ball so far, so it's a bit early to speak, but haven't seen any spins on my screen just yet, so it's looking pretty good.
Philip Buckland just running off. I think that was just before the entry onto the oval section, by the looks of it. Jump on board for a lap. The driver in a moment and get their first out lap done.
There's a spin for Mark Cochran, so he's just escorted himself off the track. He's probably trying to get back on so he can keep another lap going, but if he keeps doing that, he might hurt his tyres a little bit.
It's unlucky going off where he did, not taking any damage, that'll be costing him some time. That's probably going to really limit those tyres for the session. First time's coming through, a 105 again from Blake Urquhart. Rory Brand gets in a time. Oh, he's pulled up in pits.
Time's definitely starting to get a lot closer between practice and now. It's 2/10 between first and second right now. It was definitely a bit more than that during the practice session. So it's going right now. Blake Urquhart, James White, Corey Brand, Sam Tucker, and Philip Buckland are the top 5, and they're the only ones who've put a time in so far. Fastest is a 1 minute 5.08. Then it goes White with a 1 minute 5.27. Followed up by Corey Brand with a 106.2. So about a second gap between second and third, but it's only 2/10 between first and second, so it looks like it's going to be a really good race.
Jumping on board, James White. Very tricky first turn. Big slide there. Gave him the commentator's curse, but he hasn't taken any damage. Should probably keep the car out on track.
No, he's going back to the pit, so he'll struggle putting in another really decent time coming towards the end of the session, because that should take an lead out of those tyres. Tell you what, it doesn't look like they're doing much from this onboard view, but they're going to be sweating during this race.
Yeah, definitely. It's some pretty hectic corners to try and fight the car through. Hopefully we get a full lap in. No, we're jinxing everyone we're jumping on with. He takes some damage there.
Oh, it looks like it's going to be a good race tonight. Maybe not for the drivers, but it's going to be entertaining for us.
All of these corners a little bit deceptive as well. It's in their 2008 version, a little bit different to the newer ones. You don't have all the corners ripple strips. You can see Ross going off.
Yeah, it's a very difficult track layout this one. Like, I've only driven this a couple of times before I upgraded to the actual new updated Charlotte Motor Speedway, but to me it felt like I was driving through a car park and I didn't know which way I was going. So it's respect to these guys, but I'm definitely not doing this anytime soon. Just a quick nick of the wall just there. Yeah, no, he might have had a little bit of damage from that. He's going back to the pits.
He's still holding pole position near 105 flat.
It's now 4/10 between the top 3. It goes Urquhart, White, and then Banks now. And he's pulled a 1 minute 5.427. And White's just gone a tenth quicker. He's just pulled a 1 minute 5.11. So they're definitely closing in on Urquhart. He's going to have a bit of a race on his hands tonight.
Yeah, it's not going to be too much to be able to have to shave off that lap to be able to pull that little bit quicker. Just get extra tenth. All it's going to be is a nice convenient timing on the oval section, get that slipstream, and they can easily gain possibly half a second over the course of that oval section. And you do have to remember as they head into turn 1, if they are getting that slipstream, they're going to have a lot of aero wash, so they're going to have a lot of extra speed to try and shave off. Cross just a little wide, puts that car into a spin.
back out in the going again now. He didn't escape back to the pits, so he might just be looking to find as many tenths as he can just on this set of tyres. Don't know how well it'll suit him right now, because don't know how many times he's spun. He could have definitely damaged the tyres at this point, but he's trying to get as much as he can out of them right now, because he knows that as soon as he goes in the pits, he's going to lose absolutely every bit of temperature that he's got. He won't be able to put another time in.
A little bit of traffic. Looks like a couple of cars going off. It's Cochrane and one of the KFC cars. They're off on either side of the track. You can hear a lot of crunching going on. Bradbury yet to get a time on the board. Could this be the lap? If this is an out lap. Crosses the line, 107.6. And Urquhart's come through for quicker time of 104.7. He's pushing some big speed out of that car. Was going to be needed, as he had James White quickly closing down on his pole time. There's only 35 seconds remaining. Banks is pulled up on the grid just about. All drivers managing to set a time. If you are joining us for our stream too, don't forget to hit that follow button. It's great seeing just how that number is growing. Chasing 20 to about 200 towards the end of the year. It's good to see us surpass the 200 mark. So thank you very much for supporting our drivers and the league. And that will be qualifying complete. Let's bring up those results now. So we have Blake Urquhart taking pole position, and then the rest of the grid we have James White, Stephen Banks, Damien Cross, Mark Cochrane, Sam Tucker, Robbie Bradbury, Corey Brand, Russell Gander, Nathan Peters and Philip Buckland. So we'll be back onto the track now.
Because of the advances in tire models, the vehicle enhancement, and they were able to build their tires quicker and a little bit easier, and so that.
And the drivers will be set to grid up now.
Looks like we've got most of the field already on the grid right now. Still waiting for a couple of people, but it's not going to be very long until the start of this race, and hopefully it'll be a really good one.
And it'll be a rather interesting turn one as the drivers try and scramble to find that track position.
We already said they're about to get the elbows out just to make it a bit more entertaining for us.
That's it. Just waiting on Blake to grid up now.
He must enjoy doing this. He's probably just trying to aggravate every driver in the field, I reckon. Just try and wait as long as he can before he goes out.
So here he might even be rushing off for a quick pit stop before heading out 40 minutes of racing. Here he is, he's readied up. Light's about to go green for round 4.
Green flag, green flag.
And the green flag drops, they're all underway, and it's fairly even start to the field.
James
Awesome
White
start
dropping back a little bit. He's now side by side with Banks. He was playing rather cautious with the start. He's tucked back in, taking that inside line through turn 2. A very nice clean start. Well, for sure there might have been a little bit of rubbing through turn 1. It's difficult enough just to go through as it is, let alone to be looking for track position off a grid start.
It was an awesome start at the back. I'm just going to try and get backpedal a little bit, see who it was, but it was absolutely mega going in the first corner.
Sam Tucker going on for an inside line. Corey Brand's been left out on the outside. That's allowed Bradbury to sneak up, ready to take turn 1, gain position.
I think it was Corey who got that really good start before. He overtook maybe 2 people straight off the start line. He just put the clutch to the floor at the exact right spot. He just took off and overtook everyone.
It is nice when you get that sweet spot, no slip, no stalling at all, and off it goes like a rocket. You can really gain a few positions.
Really decent start for the entire field. I thought it was going to be a lot messier looking at practice and qualifying, but they seem to be holding it together quite nicely. Their aim of the game might just be to just get it home on this one instead of trying to race for all position, but hopefully they start to get elbows out quickly.
Especially with the track being a rather tricky one for just about all drivers. It's probably going to just be more so making sure they can get that car through with no mistakes. A tiny mistake here is definitely going to potentially throw the race for them.
Yeah, it's it. You don't want to risk it all on the first lap at the same time, because then you've absolutely ruined your entire race for nothing.
And Nathan Peters is running off wide, losing a spot to Philip Buckland. I think the fastest lap of the race so far is a 1:05.703 by Banks. That was the previous lap. And even Urquhart is setting a 1:05.746. So we're seeing very close to qualifying times being done. And even being out the front with the full amount of wind on Urquhart is really pushing it. Robbie Bradbury closing in to put some pressure on Sam Tucker. He just slightly drops a tyre off. Corey Brand also losing some pace. Going wide in that same corner. That's where we saw a lot of drivers going for a slip in both practice and qualifying. There could be potential of a fair bit of marbling still on the track.
Does look fairly clean though from this angle, so might not be huge amount just yet. There could just be the absolute lack of grip from these cars, or I won't say lack of grip, just the pure nature of this car always wanting to slide out. You get her going right at group like that, but they're really difficult to get going right.
That's right. There's a 2.8 second lead. Blake Urquhart now. Banks is getting similar lap times, so he's teetering around that gap. Oh, we've just had James White go for a big spin. I think Banks possibly as well. He's managed to save it.
Tough night.
Managed to
It's
save
going to be a really
it.
tough night for these KFC cars.
Have Mark Cochran now up into third position. Look at the drivers trying to break that slipstream and find a line. You see Cross and Tucker absolutely flying in that slipstream.
A really good battle going on between P4 and P7. They're going too wide.
Nearly 3 wide through the first corner. That was getting pretty tight. Oh, and Cochran slides.
Oh, this is going to be a good night.
Ooh. He's going to try and turn that car around.
Damien Cross around too. He's had a bit of a spin. I'm not sure entirely where on the track that is, but...
So we've seen a few go off. They're trying to use the full length of the track. Once you start getting right out on that edge and dropping in the dirt, and those tyres, a little bit, how are you going after that spin? She hasn't got that full grip back.
Looks like there's still a really good battle going on right now between P2 and P5. I think they were P4 to P8 just before, but they've come back up with as a result of those couple of spins, so they're loving life right now, but there's only a couple of tenths between P2 and P5 right now.
And James White going for the inside line. I think he's going to get Bradbury through turn 1. He's going to have to move forward and block that line. Otherwise Bradbury will get him on the inside through this corner.
Oh, big off. Who's that? Corey Brand.
Corey Brand off for a slide. I'm not sure if he made some rear contact to that wall on the slide. Let's see, Nathan Peters and Philip Buckland quickly closing in on Corey Brand after that spin.
Seems to be okay. It doesn't look like he smoked the wall at all. He pulled up just before it, but he definitely pulled in the rear going towards it. Might have locked the rears or something like that if he did it on his own. I think he did it on his own, but wouldn't be happy with himself right now.
A little bit slippery there for Urquhart as he went through turn 1. That tail started the slide. He's marginally pulled it in before making that wall contact with that concrete barrier. Banks now trailing behind the race lead by 8.7 seconds. He's got a nice gap between himself and Robbie Bradbury. And he's feeling a lot of pressure from James White.
Not much between them at all. There was 0.2 of a second between them going into the first corner, but they're nose to tail in all of these braking zones. Looks like the gap's just gone out a little bit now though, so Bradbury might just be feeling a little bit safer right now. Until they get to the oval part where he'll catch up like a rocket.
For our viewers, don't forget to jump into the chat as well. Don't be shy. Let us know here to cheer on. And then use those sound effects controls down under the stream as well, as you can play a bunch of fun sound effects that will be recorded on the stream, so do have fun with that. Side by side through turn 1 between Damon Cross and Sam Tucker. Sam tucks right in on the tail. rather close. Yeah, it was Russell Gander sliding off. Oh, Jamien's gone off for a spin, hitting that wall. Oh, he's locked in the fence. Yep, that'll be a tow. That's going to cost him big time.
He's not going to be happy with himself right now. Little Crocky did that on his own. He just went wide and into the grass. He was just a passenger from that point. But oh man, he'd be dirty with himself right now.
And check out the replay. Just what went on for him. A lot of understeer. Goes out wide. Goes straight through that fencing. It's actually surprising that it locked him all that way. It'd be very frustrating. It's from lap 9. Blake's led for the full 9. 10 minutes in. It's a quarter of the way through.
He's got a pretty hefty gap between him and Banks in P2. It's 8.3 seconds to P2. Then it's 14.7 to P3. So he's probably just sitting comfortably, making sure he goes straight right now. He's not going to be in that urgent of a mood right now at all.
No, he's going to be probably keeping it fairly well, because he's keeping a very similar pace. I was sitting about 106.7 that previous lap. He did back off about a second compared to Banks. Just that lap gone then. So sitting at 107.5. And then Banks losing out a fair bit of gap. He actually set a 112. So 5 seconds off the pace. So that now sees Bradbury starting to close in. And James White also. I think that's Cochrane that they've just gotten past. He's currently a lap down, so he'd have been shown the blue flag. He's been moved offline and dropped that pace to let them through. In front of Cochrane's car, looks a little bent up. Luckily for Cross, where he did have to end up towing, he was towards the back end of the lap, so it wasn't too long to tow.
My screen showing is a lap down though, so he definitely won't be happy. Be hoping for a safety car, see if he can stay out and keep a lap up, but it doesn't look good for him right now. The gap between Banks and Bradbury is now only 9/10 of a second, so he's gaining quick. It looks like Banks might have had a spin or something like that I've missed. But Bradbury's definitely closed up on him a fair margin. He's right on his tail now.
His last lap he was about a 10th quicker than Banks. So he's going to keep this pace up. He's within well close enough to be getting that slipstream advantage. So this gap is going to quickly close in over this sector.
He's right on his tail now, going into turn 1.
Looks like he's going to go for an outside pass.
Oh, the battle's on between these two right now.
Tucker starting to close in on White. White must have gone for a spin. His last lap at 1:16.5.
Looks like Damien Cross is in a bit of a honeymoon too, because he's just gone past Philip Buckman right now. He's overtaking him on the straight and he looks like he wants to get as much time back as he can. He's definitely on the charge at this point. Been a spin for Cochrane.
Oh,
Cochrane
he's
stuck in the
locked
fence
in
too.
that same fence. Oh, there's potentially been some contact between another driver. So he's lost it in the corner beforehand. No, they've both just gone for a slide at the exact same time. And that gate causing problems for drivers. He can't get the car out.
Looks like he's been having a bit of a rough time beforehand too, because his car was smashed up well before that, and he's had a couple of spins in the last couple of laps too, so he's just not enjoying life right now.
Yeah, Charlotte taking its toll on the car. It's a very unforgiving track. Look at Bradbury putting some huge pressure onto Banks now. Banks pulled away rather quickly within those. Hey Lockie, thanks for joining the stream and following as well.
Is this brother Lockie?
Lucky, I guess.
I have a feeling that this is my brother.
Oh, your brother.
Maybe, so it looks like it.
There you go, not only getting support for drivers but also for commentators, so good to see.
Yeah, funny he brought me drinks too.
Peter's in the pits at the moment. From lap 15. Blake still leading the way, pushing that gap out further. Bradbury did manage to get the pass.
Doesn't look like Banks is wanting to give it up very much though. There's still only 2 tenths between them. That was at the start of the lap, so it might have gone out a little bit yet, but they're still pretty close.
He must have had a little bit of a slip, but he's managed to recover back and hold ground. And he's close enough to be able to close in over the oval section.
Definitely not far apart at all. Might not gain enough of an advantage to get him into turn 1, but he'll definitely gain a little bit back.
Corey Brand also off into the pits. We've got Russell Gander moved up into 5th position. Looks like he got around Sam Tucker and then put a quick gap on him. There may have been a little bit of a slip from Tucker. He's got an alright safety net between himself and Buckland.
Looks like Bradbury's on a charge right now. He's got 13 seconds to Urquhart, which was 14 seconds the lap before, so he's definitely closing in quickly. Lost 12 seconds now. He's not mucking around today.
Bradbury's putting down some very quick times at the moment. He's getting it down to very low 106s. The pace for Urquhart at the moment's 107s.
Bradbury's qualifying time was a 105.98. And it's just moved to Banks, so I've lost his fastest race time, a 106.15. So he's only 2 tenths off his qualifying time. In a race, that's pretty mega.
Yeah, that is some very good pace. The fastest lap of the race was done on lap 3. It was a 1:05.389, and that was by Blake Urquhart. So to be doing that early on, carrying a nice amount of fuel.
Bradbury stuck in the wall. Oh, he's got himself out.
Oh,
He's into the other
that
fence,
same
so
gate. Oh no, he's got the car
gonna be
through.
spewing.
He's got it out, so it doesn't require a tow.
He's gonna be spewing. Had the gap down to 12.29 seconds, and he's just giving it all away, and probably a bit more. So he's not gonna be happy with himself right now. Order right now, halfway through the race, is Urquhart, Banks, Bradbury, White, and Gander are the top 5.
Looks like Bradbury hit both sides of the gates. Gets stuck in one gate. Manages to dislodge himself, luckily.
Maybe that's why iRacing updated and made a new track for it.
Yeah, that's it. And then he gets himself stuck in the next gate.
He just ducked himself into the pits now, so he might be taking his compulsory stop, but it didn't look like he took any major damage from that anyway.
No, it should be reasonably okay with the fast repair. And being at that halfway point, might as well take the opportunity to grab that fuel. And then he'll be able to last it out through the remainder of the race.
Yeah, that's it. There's now 58.8 seconds from the start line between him and Urquhart. So there's definitely a big gap in the field now. It's 14 seconds to P2, 25 seconds to P3, and 43 seconds to P4.
Looks like James White peeling to the pits now as well.
Buckland looks like he's just about to get lapped too, so Urquhart's definitely on a charge. He's lapped almost half the field at this point.
Yes, Buckland in P5. He's halfway through the race and already lapping into the top 5. A little bit of residual smoke, and I did hear a crunch. Not sure whose car that is there. I think it was James White's car.
Yeah, just looking at it now, he's spun by the looks of it on pit exit.
I don't know if he may be contending with a little bit of steering issues here. I think he might be fighting the car a little.
By the looks, he pulled out straight on the racing line from the pits that he made contact with. Lost him. Hang on a second. Damien Cross by the looks. Yeah, Damien Cross just looks like he gave him a bit of a nudge coming out of the pits, but he cut straight across from the racing line, so I don't know. I'll let you decide on whose fault that one is.
Yeah, that'll be something to look at in the post-race stewarding for sure.
Looks like Urquhart hasn't come in the pitch just yet. There's a 26-second gap to Banks in P2, then a 55-second gap to Tucker in P3, and the rest of the field's a lap down, but they would have all gone into the pits and taken their compulsory stop yet, so Urquhart, by the looks, yet to take his compulsory stop.
I think we did fine. They could stretch out to nearly the last 10 minutes before needing to head in and pit. So we should potentially be seeing him pit in the next few laps, I would most likely expect.
There's another spin, Sam Tucker's. He's just spun and he's smacked the wall with the rear of his car. That's on the entrance to the oval by the look of that. So he's got a bit of wing damage there. A little bit bent, might turn one direction a little bit better than the other, but back on the road now, so it looks like he's doing okay.
Yeah, some hefty paintwork scratched off on both sides of the car.
I think a lot of these drivers are just really annoyed with this track right now. They're just trying to get home.
Yeah, definitely throwing a spanner in the works for him to battle
Corey
out in
Brand in the
round
wall.
4.
Corey Brand in the wall again. Doesn't look like major damage. He's starting to get back onto the track now. That's on the oval section, so...
I think he's recovered okay. Be interesting if he needs to head into the pits.
Looks like he might do, because his body language of the car's not looking very happy right now, and he's sticking to the inside apron of that oval, so looks like he's taking pit entry now.
I'll check out
Yeah,
to
he's
see
in the
how much
pits.
damage he did end up taking through that spin. It's a little bit too much throttle coming through that corner. And just unable to pull that car up in time before nosing into the wall. Oh, and he's just missed his pit box, I think. Just had to back it up. Urquhart's now got a 47.6 second gap after Banks has been in and pit. A very quick stop as well, 12.8 seconds.
It's hard to tell whether he's having a good time or just wishing someone to catch up so he can have a race with them.
And in comes Urquhart now.
Be interesting to see how many people get their lap back on this one. Because right now, with the current standings, everyone except for P1 and 2 are lapped. So from Bradbury in P3 right down to Philip Buckland, or Russell Gander I should say, sorry, in P7, are all 1 lap down. And Cross, Brand and Peters are both 2 laps down, and Mark Cochrane's 3 laps down. Looks like a couple of people just sneaking their lap back now. Looks like Tucker just overtook him on pit exit, so he's going to be trying to put his foot down as hard as he can to try and keep him in front of him on that lap, because if they can do that, then they'll most likely get their lap back on the safety car if someone crashes that hard.
They've been for a bit of trouble trying to keep that pace up that Blake's been putting down. That pace is rather unmatched tonight. He's been putting in a huge amount to get that car to be consistently flat out. So it could all end very quickly. All it's going to take is a slight error, and especially now he's got some traffic to try and navigate through. He may be offline for a few corners and be out of rhythm a little bit. Things could get a little bit interesting.
Looks like Tucker's just pulled to the side a little bit to let Blake through just to give him his lap back. You know, he's probably going to get it anyway, so he's just told him to go up the inside of him on the oval, and he's giving it back pretty quickly.
Cross doing the same as well.
The order now is Urquhart, Banks, Bradbury, White and Tucker. A lot of thank you messages going over the radio right now.
Cochrane's just ran wide. Gets the car back on track. Peters also running wide. Now it's Corey Brand through to move up to P9, but he's just gone for a spin on the exact same corner where he went off before on the
Looks like a bit
approach
of
into
heavy
the
damage.
oval. Yeah, so he's nosed that car in again, so that'll be another trip into the pits most likely. And then Peters gets that position back even with a slide for that same section. Hey Simo, thanks for jumping on the stream.
Looks like Sam Tucker's still sticking on the back of our car. He's let him pass, but he's keeping pace with him. Might be a lap down, but he's definitely not out of pace.
No, he might tuck in and try and use that slipstream. Get towed along for a while.
He might need to fuel save a little bit, so he's just coasting on the straight to keep going. Spot a short field him or something like that.
And Tucker did have a longer pit stop as well, 28.4 seconds. So not sure if he's taken on extra fuel, or if he may have even swapped out some tyres. Next longest in pit stops is then Russell Gander with a 53.1 second stop. So it would definitely be a set of tyres for sure. He's really taken on.
I think with these cars in a pit stop, taking a set of tyres starts after you finish refueling, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I feel like the skippies, when everyone was racing the skippies, no one wanted to take on tyres because no one wanted to slow them down a ton. And it just wasn't worth it because it ended up taking so much more time than taking on 3 litres of fuel.
And there's Sam Tucker sitting right behind Urquhart still.
Urquhart's got damage. He's telling Tucker to go past him, he's got damage.
Actually, yeah, I think he may be missing the bonnet. No. Looks like there's some buckling going at the front.
Bit of scuff in the front splitter. That's only happened recently. Oh, he made contact with a teammate who spun out in front of him. So that was on lap 26. At the exit of the first corner, he's made contact with James White, who had a spin and just couldn't get out of the way fast enough.
So unfortunately, at least he does have that pretty good gap. He has dropped a fair bit of pace this lap. He's probably going to have to come in here that front left. Is it how are you going? Yeah, a lot of that wheel guard is actually pushed in, so you may have some front left wheel damage.
He said on the radio on the straight he's 40 k's slower than he normally is. So he's definitely feeling it right now. But there's only 6 minutes left of the race, so he's probably not going to take a chance.
I think it's Corey Brown's car. Through turn 1, he's just put that into the wall. Corey having a lot of bad luck with that car tonight. I think he's pulling it over. It's right on that racing line.
It's a good thing this isn't real racing, because if it was, these Century Motorsport boys would be having a really serious chat with their boss after this race.
Definitely. With the damage that Urquhart's got, he's going to have to last it out. It's not going to be much point bringing it in for a repair.
No, because there's 14-second gap between him and Banks behind him, so if he goes in the pits now, he's going to lose all of that and probably a bit more, so he's just going to try and keep it going as fast as he can for the next couple of laps, just try and keep it on the track but stay enough in front of Banks to make a difference. So the top three are Blake Urquhart, Stephen Banks and Robbie Bradbury. The gap between Banks and Urquhart is 14.4 seconds. And Urquhart and Bradbury is 43 seconds. And past him, P4 downwards is all at least one lap down. There's 1, 2 and 3 laps down all on the same field. So really long race for a lot of these guys by the looks of it.
Yeah, definitely. 5 laps to go, and there goes Corey Brand is on that. Actually, no, I don't think it is Corey Brand. James White is missing the bonnet to his car.
That most likely would have been caused from that spin at turn 1 when he made contact with Urquhart. I think I saw it missing then. Two very battered up cars in that battle though, so... A lot of these guys just trying to make it to the finish. Probably over this track, never going to race it again. Banks might have an issue too, because he's got 14.9 seconds to Urquhart right now. Unless Urquhart's just faking it, saying he's a lot slower than he actually is. Pulling a Lewis Hamilton.
Well, his last lap of 106.686. And Banks a 107.178. And Bradbury last time around a 106.484. So 2 tenths quicker that lap compared to Urquhart, but Urquhart did just land a 0.2. Could even be potentially looking at trying to fuel save as well.
Could be too, I didn't think of that.
Yes, he hasn't gone in really easy on the car. He's led for 32 laps, and most of that was pretty flat stick to go through and basically lap just about all but the podium. Because we've got 3 minutes to go. Current standings, we have Mark Cochrane in P11. Corey Brand is spinning again in turn 1.
Looks like he did that on his
own.
own.
P10. Yeah, that car's taking some hefty damage now. Nathan Peters in P9. Damon Cross in P8. Considering he did get stuck in that gate and have to tow the car, he's come back after being a few laps down. Got James White P7. Russell Gander in P6. Philip Buckland in P5. Sam Tucker P4. And Robbie Bradbury running third. He's got a good 30 seconds between himself and P2. It's a nice little safety net there for Stephen Banks in P2, but he's gone for a slide. Can he control it? He's going to have to try and recover that car nice and quick.
It does help having a fair margin to P3 though.
Definitely can afford a tiny mistake, especially in these last couple of laps.
Maybe not on that part of the track though. He's probably wishing he spun it at a different part though, because that's on the start of the absolute mega oval, so he's going to be catching quickly.
Yeah, a lot of momentum lost from that corner. You can take that corner rather quickly if you are very cautious and get the perfect line.
Bradbury is still a fair way behind though. He's only been on the oval for about 10 seconds now, and Banks has just come off it into turn 2 now. So there's still a fair margin there. And there's now 23 seconds between Urquhart and Banks, whereas it was 15 before, so he's lost about 8 seconds in that spin. Which I'll be honest, at that part of the track, that is a lot less than what I was thinking he might lose.
Yeah, you did manage to save it pretty well. So there's 20 seconds remaining. So as Urquhart crosses the control line. Now on lap 35. Once that timer reaches 0 now, white flag will be shown, so this is the final lap.
Looks like he's just loving life at the moment, just cruising back to the finish. A little bit of damage, but he's probably not going to be worrying about that right now. He's got enough buffer over P2 and 3 to just keep him at bay. In saying that though, Banks is still losing time on him. So, I don't know whether that's from damage or not, but he's definitely still losing time. It was 23 seconds and now it's 25.
And here comes Urquhart ready to cross the line. Going to take the checkers. This will be able to take the championship lead.
Flashing the headlights across the line just to go, yeah, we made it.
He's done it. He's probably going to smoke her up after a run like that.
He's tried spinning, but it looks like he's still got traction control on. Nah, I'm not loving him right now.
Banks goes for a huge slide across the finish line. Having some fun. And actually, Banks only trailing by 44 points in the championship, where Blake Urquhart's sitting on 345 points. And Banks is 367. They're having heaps of fun. Bradbury smashes that car.
I'm just going to put this on blimp so I can watch it from a distance. This is awesome.
Sam Tucker takes 4th. Phil Buckland.
This is the pile-up we wanted on the first lap. There's a car upside down at the end of that oval onto turn 1. They're still ramming each other.
Yeah, Urquhart's been flipped over onto his side. And they're all now giving him some friendly rams. Philip Buckland crosses in P5. Not sure if Russell Gander's crossed the line yet or not. I'm not sure where he's on the track as he ran out of fuel potentially.
He'd be spewing if he's run out of fuel at this point. He's pulling a wind cup.
No, I think that is actually, they might have kept going straight ahead after crossing the line into the other oval part. Cochrane doing some donuts on the skid pad. Corey Brands totaled that car. And then we have the conclusion of round 4.
I think
a lot of burnouts going on.
I think Cochrane would have to give Blake some pointers.
And then we'll bring up the results for round 4. So after 36 laps of Charlotte Motor Speedway road course, Blake Urquhart takes the win. And then also on the podium is Stephen Banks in P2 and Robbie Bradbury in P3. And the rest of our standings is then Sam Tucker, Philip Buckland, Russell Gander, James White, Damien Cross, Nathan Peters, Mark Cochrane and Corey Brand. So we'll be crossing over, chat to our podium finishers. So we'll be silent as we cross over and get the guys ready. Congratulations, guys. Great win, Blake.
Yeah, cheers, mate. That was, yeah, car felt alright. I was a bit down at the first start. I put myself in the fence. Just a love tap, put the wheel out. And, but other than that, it's just cruising at the front, just keeping turning laps. I've seen the margins going down, going up, sorry. So, at the end of the day, I was just turning laps and then coming across a teammate and fighting him, and that sorted me out as well. So. But other than that, car felt good, and yeah, on to the next one.
That's good, yeah.
Were you just loving life, or were you just hoping that someone would actually catch up to you so you could have a bit of a race with them?
Oh, at the end of the day, I was fighting the car more than anything else.
Yeah, that's fair. It looked like a lot of the guys in the field are doing that.
So, but yeah, no, it was good fun. Times hurt a lot, but yeah, that's an oval track for you.
And you did well managing the lap all but the top 3.
Not better, well, even better.
So you've done very well just closing that gap in. So it'll be very close, I think, championship-wise now. So we've said not able to make the rest of the series. So it was going to be close between you and Banks. So with Banks taking P2 and then being second in the championship, you guys are probably going to be pretty close championship points-wise at the end of tonight's round.
Yeah, no, it'll be a few exciting rounds, 2 more rounds to go. Anything can happen right now, so.
That's it. And congratulations, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, JT.
Having a good solid drive, and that gap was teetering a little bit, and you started closing it in on a little on Blake after he took that bit of damage. So a couple more laps, and you could have probably caught back up.
I was having issues myself with the car all night, so I wasn't really comfortable. And yeah, that track was pretty interesting. Some of the bumps and whatnot. So yeah, it turned out alright. It was good.
Feels a bit like driving through a car park, doesn't it?
It's a bit like that. Yeah, trying to find the cones to go through and weave through and all that kind of crap. But yeah, it probably would have been a bit more fun in a trolley in a car park, I reckon.
And congrats, Robbie. Good drive.
Yeah, mate, that was a interesting race. Quali went out the door. That was terrible. And then the race started to come good, and then I thought I'd just pull up at the gate and have some KFC.
Yeah, we saw you pinballing between those 2 gates.
Oh, looked like a pretty good viewing spot, so I thought I'd just sit there for about 20 seconds and
Just have a
have
breather.
a bit of popcorn chicken, and then off I went again. But yeah, nah, it was good. Good to get a 1, 2, 3 for the team, and 4 actually. James is 4th as well, so good fun. Very interesting track.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
look like you had a lot of fun at the end with your post-race celebrations, knocking each other over.
Can't beat him in the race, get him after.
That's it, mate.
Put him on his roof.
Yeah.
That's it.
Should have done that on that one.
Yeah, but then I'd lose points.
Yeah, well, mate.
It's only a Porsche. What else could possibly go wrong?
I think that's why I joined our team, so we have to be nice to him.
Well, that's fair, isn't it?
Good fun.
Good race tonight, boys, and cheers JT and Ryan commentating as well.
Well done, Blake. Congratulations.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, nice job, boys.
Yes,
Cheers, fellas.
yes, I bet you'll be enjoying being away from Charlotte now, then only to come into the final round with plenty of walls with Long Beach Street Circuit, so it's going to be some very tight racing to finish it off.
What
Yeah,
time
bring
of
it on.
day? What time of day is that one?
In the morning.
Okay.
You want it to be nighttime, do you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, if you change it, that would look cool, wouldn't it?
Fountain would look good.
Night time with the rain. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be grouse.
Only problem is I can't see car numbers, so I'll have to look at all my display to see who I'm riding with.
Alright,
Cheers, fellas.
congrats guys.
Cheers,
Had a
boys.
great night.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, nice job, boys.
And thank you, Ryan. We'll catch you back in the box again with us for the final next week.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
See you then. There we have Ryan joining me in the commentary box, chatting to our podium finishes with Blake Urquhart taking the win, and Stephen Banks in P2 and Robbie Bradbury in P3. And then next week is the final round for the Pagnian Porsche 911 Championship. We head to Long Beach Street Circuit. It's a great track, and the Keys Porsches are going to be a beast to try and get around there. It's going to be some very tight racing, so do stay tuned. If you haven't hit that follow button yet, do so you can be notified when we go live. So we'll be back 7:30 PM Australian Eastern Daylight Time on Monday, and then there's more Porsche action on Thursday night for Project Cars 2. So that is with the Porsche Cayman Cup on PlayStation. So that will be this Thursday night at the same time, 7:30 PM. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you trackside next time.